Hi, this is Acting Sergeant Brian Smith, the Longmont Police Department Professional Standards Unit. LPD prides itself in policing in partnership with the people, and your call is very important to us. If you would like to share an exceptional experience you had with one of our employees, feel free to leave a detailed message with your name and phone number. If your experience did not meet your expectations, I would like to talk to you. Please leave your name, contact information, a case number if known, and a brief synopsis. I will return your call as soon as possible. Thank you.
Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
Yes, hello there. This message is for anybody in the Professional Standards Unit. We need to open this up as a very big issue. My name is William Montgomery. I can be reached here at 970-825-4421 or 970-412-5463. I also have a brother named David Montgomery. He can be reached here at 970-239-1580. Okay, so we'll cut right to the brass tacks here. Here's the gist of it. My brother and I have learned from previous encounters with police in general and security guards and so forth, at least, the ideas that we have about law and how they work run along the lines of these concepts here. So whenever you're doing an investigation on somebody, you use reasonable suspicion, you confirm, you detain them. You might need their name if it's relevant, but it shouldn't always automatically be that way for needing their ID. They're still open to case law interpretation there. But nevertheless, you would otherwise use your reasonable suspicion to confirm or dispel your suspicions of a crime. And then from there, if you find that there is no crime committed, you otherwise let them go, maybe tell them that they're still under investigation, but you undetain them. Otherwise, you graduate your reasonable suspicion to probable cause, and you go ahead and write them a citation. Or maybe arrest them with a custodial arrest if, they qualify or don't qualify for a ticket. And so this reasonable suspicion, probable cause threshold type thing here, what we're talking about today is over trespassing tickets and or investigations. And so as our examples, which you can look up, we have two examples now. We have McDonald's and we have Safeway or King Soopers. Down on Hover and Bentway, or just Bentway. But in a nutshell, when a business owner asks somebody to leave, that's one thing. When the business owner alleges on the phone that they had refused to leave, if they decide to call the cops, that's obviously another thing. Now, it's not automatically established that one is trespassing. You guys would have to come out, and since you weren't present, you would have to maybe detain the person if they're still on the property, ask them, hey man, did you refuse to leave? And so, basically, the only reason why you would need to detain somebody is for the purposes of an investigation, whether or not to charge them with trespassing for refusing, or just to basically otherwise undetain them, let them go, and maybe wave at them as they're walking away with some sort of comment like, hey, just to let you know, if the business owner calls you or calls us again, then we're going to have to arrest you for trespassing. But you would never need to detain them in order to warn them or ban them, because the business owner already did that. And so security guards, it's really old concept. Security guard cannot detain a skateboarder that he finds on his property for the purposes of identifying him for his own personal database of bans. You can't detain the skateboarder to take a picture of him. You can't detain him to bring him into your office to fill out a piece of paper for him. You can't detain him to obtain his identification so that you can issue him this warning. We'll call it a private property trespass warning / exclusionary order. It's just kind of like a don't come back notice. It's usually verbal. Maybe the business owner might have something written down. Maybe they throw it at him on the way out. But you would never need to detain somebody in order to warn them off the property or ban them from the property. The only reason why you would detain is obviously if you're under investigation for trespassing, and then go ahead and charge them with trespassing if you feel like that's the case, or just let them go. Charge or let them go. And so our contention here is very, very obvious. We've already been through this, and it is getting pretty clear-cut and pretty dry. King Soopers and McDonald's, when they had alleged that we'd refused to leave, we happened to be recording beforehand because we see these types of things happen all the time with people lying. And so when the cops showed up, we didn't have the audio ready for the McDonald's police, so they just kind of said they had to go off of what they said, the McDonald's. But we did have the audio of King Soopers, and so we tried to play that audio to them live to dispel the suspicion of trespassing. And we had an issue with the officer there. He said, sorry, I got to write you these trespassing warnings anyways. And so we were trying to explain to him that you wouldn't have probable cause to detain us for trespassing of a charge anymore because we dispelled that. But if you want, you can, sure. But, now you're denying exculpatory evidence. But nevertheless, the whole point is that we kept telling them, if you're not detaining us anymore for an investigation.
You are approaching the maximum length for a recording. Finish your recording after the tone.
Basically, we got down to the bottom of it that we were being detained purely to be written a private properties don't come back notice. And that has nothing to do with reasonable suspicion for investigations, and that has nothing to do with a citation or an arrest for charges. It's some sort of private...
Reach the maximum length for a recording. To send this message, press pound or hang up. To play it, 3. To re-record it, your message has been sent. If you would like to try an extension, you may do so now.
Hi, this is Acting Sergeant Brian Smith, the Longmont Police Department Professional Standards Unit. LPD prides itself in policing in partnership with the people, and your call is very important to us. If you would like to share an exceptional experience you had with one of our employees, feel free to leave a detailed message with your name and phone number. If your experience did not meet your expectations, I would like to talk to you. Please leave your name, contact information, a case number if known, and a brief synopsis. I will return your call as soon as possible. Thank you.
Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
Yes, hello again. This is William Montgomery. This is turned out to be a 2-for-2 message here. Just a lot of information to get out. We were talking about trespassing, detaining with reasonable suspicion versus giving some sort of private property don't come back notice versus actually arresting or citing for trespassing. And so what we're trying to get at here is we asked for tickets to go down that path of since they were alleging that we were refusing, but they wouldn't give us the citations. They said that we were being given these warnings in lieu of citations. And so the contention here, the word as we call it, my brother and I, is that a trespassing warning, you would still have to have the probable cause for an actual trespassing citation. And that's what we're trying to say to them that they didn't have. We gave them the audio and so forth, and they weren't interested in writing us citations either. They told us no, especially with McDonald's. They're like, no, you're just getting a warning, and so they don't understand that we're asking for the ticket because we'd like to have a place to fight our ticket and so forth. But obviously we weren't detained anymore for purposes of just confirming or dispelling a crime, whether a crime had been committed. And so once they had obtained our identification in both situations, they continued to hold us purely for the purposes of issuing us a private property don't come back notice. Both pieces of paper basically said, manager asked you to leave on the pieces of paper, the little yellow ones. And so it's kind of really hard to explain something that's so freaking simple. The only reason why you would detain somebody is to confirm or dispel your suspicions. And then you would either let them go or you would charge them. Nowhere in our lives, anywhere, have we seen people need to hold someone in order to identify them, just to ban them, just to give them a piece of paper, and to have some sort of database on your guys' side that we've asked too. You guys claimed that, yeah, we have to keep this on our side so that when next time, if the cops get called, we can see that you were trespassed from the property. But like I said, a business owner that sees a skateboarder on his property, all he has to do is say, hey, get out of here. He can't detain him to say, hey, get out of here. And if the guy willingly leaves right there, then he wouldn't be able to detain him to get a picture of him or an ID of him. And then, so that's the warning. It's always, when it comes to trespassing warnings, formal warnings, exclusionary orders, hey, don't come back, that's always level 1, we'll call it, a consensual encounter. Business owner just says it, Maybe one of the business owner's agents says it, employee. And then, naturally, if the person refuses, if the skateboarder is like, no, I'm staying here, then there's really only one place left to go, and that's level 3, probable cause for an arrest. Not necessarily straight to an arrest, but that would be what the reason the business owner would call in on. Hey, man, this guy's refusing. And then from there, you guys would only have one job only. You'd come in, and you'd show up, and you'd ask him, hey, you would detain off of reasonable suspicion since you weren't present, and you would detain the individual, and you'd ask him, hey, man, did you refuse to leave? And the guy's like, no. And then you would maybe dispel your suspicions if he had some proof, and then you'd let him go on his way. You'd waive, like I said. Or if he's like, yeah, I refused, then bam, you would arrest him on trespassing. Simple as that. There seems to be this gray area that somehow, just because a business owner calls up and it's wishy-washy, maybe the person refused to leave, maybe they didn't, maybe the business owner wasn't clear enough with his wording. But keep in mind, you guys are supposed to field your calls. I've heard dispatch say that they need to ask clarifying questions like, did the business owner tell them to leave? Did the people refuse to leave? And so you guys are technically, it sounds like you're supposed to field your calls to only send out calls or cops to people who refuse to leave. And so, because you would never need to, because obviously you would need to give the person a chance to leave, because once the business owner gives them a chance to leave and they leave, then that's not really a reason to even have the cops come out, is it? And so we're getting situations here where somehow, because there's an allegation of refusing to leave, that can kind of bump up this reasonable suspicion to detain to something like, we got to give you this warning, man. This don't come back notice. But if it's actually shy of an actual citation, if no one's going to charge me with trespassing, and like I said, if they don't have probable cause for trespassing.
You are approaching the maximum length for a recording. Finish your recording after the tone.
Look, I guess we'll have to pick this up another time. What we're trying to say is that you have a 100% illegal database of people's names that you've never needed before ever. You're detaining them off of false information, and basically it's not even a place to detain them. It's not reasonable suspicion or probable cause. So you guys are big trouble.
Maximum length for a recording. To send this message, press pound or hang up. To play it, 3. To re-record